and that was kind of it. And then he goes and sits down over there. He's kind of like unsuspecting, like older guy who doesn't seem like he'd be into anything spiritual if you looked at him, right? And he's got like this old leather jacket on and like a nice collared shirt and jeans and white sneakers, hair is done. And he looks more like I don't know, almost more like a mafia guy, you know? He starts bringing up the stories of the tour guides, and he's like, I don't know if you heard them talking, but they were talking about these UFO sightings, and he starts going into it, and then he's telling the same stories, and then I was like, yeah, I heard the guy downstairs saying how he didn't believe it, and he's like, oh yeah, that guy, like I didn't even know this guy was around, and he heard the same guy, the older guy, denying that he's believes in it, telling the stories and saying these things, and he was going a little bit more into the UFO stuff, and then he goes, you know what? But I know it's real because I was abducted when I was 5, and so and he's like, and my brother was 1.5 at the time, and he was like, you know, he didn't really go into details about it, but he made it like it alluded to that it was like fuzzy to him. He's like. And he's like, you know, but I know it's true because he's like, I just know it's true. He's like, but my brother, he's like, we never really talked about it until like later on when, so this guy ended up, he's from Israel and he lives in California though. And I don't know how long he hasn't been in Israel, but he's like I went back, he made it sound like it was sometime recently and talking to his brother. And his brother described every detail of the experience, and it was the same stuff that he remembered.
Was it like scary stuff, or was it like...
No, so I think it was like weird stuff to this guy, whose name is Avi, and then his brother, he said like it wasn't as weird, like he wasn't as affected by it because he said he was closer to just coming over from that
being born.
Yeah. So, you know, and he's talking a lot about he's like a friend that he's had for a very long time, like from past lives. He's like, me and this like friend that I have, we talk about stuff that happened like lifetimes ago, and like they're talking about the same stuff. So he didn't go into real detail about it, but he was just like very just
matter of fact,
just talking about it, and like if you don't believe me, it's fine. Like I know it happened, and there's other people out there that have the similar experiences. He's like
recontextualization of their memories of childbirth, which is interesting. Like there's like a hypothesis that like I mean you having your like traumatic experience, like being, you kind of like place time differently, like you reorganize the course of events. So like when you're 5, you could suddenly like remember what it felt like to be born or something like that. You know?
I remember in one of my experiences, I experienced it out of order. Like I woke up out of the situation, and then like I passed back out, and I was back in the situation, and then I woke up again out of it. And like I remember the experience happening in that order. Like it was a non-linear. It was weird.
Yeah.
But
not to like, you know, like he feels what he feels.
Well, that doesn't in any way say.
And I've seen some things on my own regard that have
like who am I to laugh at this guy or discount his story or whatever, right? So like we're just sitting there, and it's like it's interesting, like just someone, and he wasn't throwing it in anyone's face or saying anything bad about anything or anyone. It just was his experience in his life, and he, based on that, he went on like a spiritual path. And then we started talking about all the spirituality stuff, and he starts talking about and he doesn't use any words like any non-dual words or any like
terminology.
No terminology. Yeah. It's just his life. It's like he uses like positive and negative vibrations, and that's the way he described it. And he's like, but it's the same stuff. It's like the more time you spend in the negative vibrations, the harder it is to tell that you're in the negative vibrations. But you need to get out of that, and you only can realize that you were in it usually when you're out of it. And then he is like, but the more that you recognize that when you're out of it, the more then you can recognize when you're in it, and you can get rid of it. It was really cool, because if you just discount someone who is talking about like UFOs and alien stuff and being abducted, then like you don't know where they're going with it. And like basically all that did to him that he knows is, that he made it seem like was make him interested in understanding what like that maybe there's something more than just
To life.
the body and the mind and
Very
that stuff.
interesting.
So
Yeah.
like that, and that's the way he talked about it. And he was very much, we were talking about how do you get more people to like believe in this stuff and question everything and be open to these things. And he's like, like we say all the time, you can't force people. You can't force people into it. They have to be ready. They have to already have like question something and have an idea to change. And it's like people always ask, we were talking about this last time, James, you brought up the question, and someone was asking me this today. It's like, who's your audience? And it's like, anybody who's ready.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, but you can't, and it's like, but you have to define an audience for business. And it's like, but it's anybody who's ready. I don't know if any of what he said was real or not real. To him it was, and who am I to say it didn't happen?
Mm-hmm.
And
there you go, sounding like that, at risk of sounding like the guy saying, I mean, it's a bunch of hooey, but...
right, but I'm not saying it's a bunch of
I know.
hooey, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, I'm
Uh-huh.
open to the possibility that does happen.
Yeah, you don't have to say
And these
anything,
things.
dude. Like, why do people need to have an opinion on stuff and, like, throw the gavel down and judge, like, I believe it, or, like, I don't? Like,
Yeah.
people ride their self-image on whether or not they're the type of person that would believe something like that or not.
Of course, it's all great. It's
The
always a
human
great
mind
area.
is so much more pliable than that. Like I feel like we can comfortably sit in a situation where that our belief on UFOs or science or religion or anything like that can sit above our personalities. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they don't have to have a direct impact on like who you are. You know, it can that knowledge or that awareness can just exist there, and then you can just call upon it if you ever need it. You know, and
Similarly, in myself with like my own personal dukkha or fears is always like some form of being put in a situation where you're expected to do something that you might not be prepared enough to do. You might not have been educated enough in how to do it, or like basically like I have no issue with outputting energy and doing work. Like I'm like a limitless source of energy. Like I don't get tired like working. So it's not like you're not gonna find me needing a break. But if like they tell you, oh, okay, move this pallet here and take this off and then move that, like if I don't know how to do it, like I don't know how to use the tools, or like no one showed me what goes where, or they like put something away but they didn't tell me like how it gets put away, that shit bugs me. Then I'm like, all right, like I'm gonna try to do it, but like, are you gonna come back 20 minutes later and say, no, that doesn't go there, that goes there? And it's like, no one told me that. And then like I gotta sit there and be like, no one told me that. And it's like so that's the shit I hate, right?
So why?
Dude, the further we go on with this, man, like what you keep in mind more and more is like you think it's about the thing, like you think it's about the job, or like you think it's about, like it's not about the thing. It's about whatever the thing is showing you that you're afraid of in yourself. This whole experience is a curriculum, dude. Like this whole life we're in is just about it's just about learning how to extract the fear from our own mind.
I mean, that's why, like, I mean, as a physical therapist, you're just a teacher. So it's like, I always considered myself a teacher that had a physical therapy kind of license label on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but you're just a teacher because you're just teaching them to do things that are maybe going to help them or see things differently or, encourage them to, or discourage them doing something. But, but it's all teaching, but you have to reach them on that level.
So I've had experiences in all these different flavors of of studying different spiritual practices and religions, and obviously like the self-abidance and the Zen stuff, like that stems a lot from Hinduism. Like I read the Bhagavad Gita. Like there's a lot of wisdom in all of these books and but just recently I've just been getting these synchronicities all involving Jesus, and it's like a lot. I mean, it's just stranger than fiction, dude. Like it's I'll just something will happen, and then I'll just kind of just be open to it and accept it, and then maybe I'll follow it. Maybe I'll take it, and I'll go read something that it reminded me of, or maybe I'll take it and but like if it's like following a trail of breadcrumbs. It is a concept useful for me to just right now in this moment to take me from where I am to my next place, and it's just a concept that I'm choosing to use.
Would
So
you also potentially say that perhaps like your personal fear of kind of being perceived as a certain way, that you're now like surrender to this idea is a sort of rebellion against that fear?
it is definitely a neutralization of that fear. Right now, I'm coming to this point of being faced with all of these little personal hang-ups about like being perceived a certain way, or being one of those weird people, or like looking at church people and saying, you don't understand this as good as well as I do. And just a bunch of shit the mind does to otherize other people. I'm coming face to face with that now. And like, at the same time, I've been getting all these weird synchronicities about Jesus, and following those breadcrumbs, I'm being drawn into situations where I can let go of my own hang-ups about this shit. And I might not be using the teachings of Jesus 6 months from now, but like I will have moved through like a huge hang-up of mine by going through this shit I'm going through right now.
And what's interesting too is like your use of Jesus particularly, it's almost, and I don't want to skew it in any way by suggesting this, but there's almost a slight like humor to it in your surrender.
There is a humor to it. There is a humor to it.
And I think that humor is such a really insane phenomenon, because like it really connects to what we were talking about earlier about kind of holding ideas in this like interesting space kind of above our personalities, ideas that we might not really fully be able to like grapple with, or like that might not be entirely like rational to us. And like humor is this sort of like master key to like
it's
accessing these
humor
kinds of
is like a
ideas.
recognition of the divine comedy, dude. It's like recognition of the infinite jest. It's like humor is like realizing that like all of it's pretty funny.
Well, and just to bring it back to like feeling, like you can't be angry at humor. Like you can't, like if you think something's funny or you're laughing, like is that not the ultimate like high? Like, you know what I mean? Like it feels so good.
Dude, yeah,
Like, there's
it's like
something so good about
best medicine, man.
about
Laughter.
humor